Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome once again to How to Get Hired. I am Bill, the company's expert, and I am behind the 8 ball today. Very unprofessionally, I got to talking to somebody and lost track of time for a few minutes there. So I'm about 10 minutes late to start this live stream. So I apologize for that. I know there was a couple of people waiting there. But yes, welcome to episode number 85 of How to Get Hired. The topic of this live stream is called 5 Career Lessons That Make Introverts More Hireable. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. But we're also going to briefly talk about the best answer to the job interview question. Tell me something about yourself that's not on your resume. Okay, and then we're going to be taking questions. So thank you to the people who who stuck around and didn't completely give up on me. This was scheduled for noon and it's 11 past right now. Also special thanks to my YouTube channel members. You should join my channel as a channel members. I appreciate your support, and you get members only videos and a couple other little perks there. And also my Patreons. If you're more into Patreon than joining as a YouTube member, you can do that too. I have several Patreons. Thank you very much. You guys are awesome. Thank you for the support. And also to my super thanks donors. If you want me to do an extra good job in answering your question, you can send me a super chat. Several people have, and I appreciate that. And also to my participants. There are several people that are here right now, and I thank you for that. This is also a Q&A, so I answer questions, whatever you're worrying about, whatever you're wondering about, whatever you're struggling with when it comes to getting a job, passing an interview, doing your resume, discovering job opportunities, or just general career advancement. That's what I'm here to talk about. You guys like my fancy artsy angle there? I was experimenting with putting my cameras a little bit further away so I don't look quite so bug-eyed all the time, because the camera is like really close to my face. Unconventional Advice That Works says, thanks, looking forward to your focus on introverts. Yes, I am an introvert. I've been an introvert my entire life. Now, I've been a big believer in the Myers-Briggs type indicator because it was demonstrated to me several times over the course of my life by other parties. And as far as I was concerned, it worked like a charm. It has recently fallen from favor because people have tacked on a bunch of crap to it. You know, it was a very general sort of thing, very simplistic general thing, and they tried to tack on these things that were very specific and detailed, like it would reveal all these specific things about you. And it's like they just said they discovered that, oh, that doesn't work. Well, yeah, of course it doesn't work. But saying things like introvert or extrovert is not crap. It's obviously a real thing. Now, the way introverts and extroverts, those are defined, is not how good you are at social interaction, but more to do with like how much you enjoy social interaction. So, for example, an introvert is somebody who maybe they can do social interaction or maybe they can't, but it's an energy draining activity for them. They don't do it for fun. They do it because they have to, or they feel they have to, right? Some introverts are absolutely terrible at social interaction. Their skills are really underdeveloped, and they shy away from it. Some introverts can do a pretty damn good job. Some easily as good as a lot of easily as good as a lot of extroverts when it comes to social interaction. But the difference is they don't do it for fun. They do it because they have to. Generally, introverts are the people that when they come home after a hard day's work and they want to relax, they go and do things off by themselves. So they'll go and read a book or watch TV or do something, you know, that involves solitude of some kind, right? That's what defines an introvert. Extroverts are the types of people that, you know, to unwind and relax and recharge, they'll surround themselves with 50 people and, you know, try and talk to everybody and, you know, meet new people, and they do that for fun, and that's how they unwind and recharge, because social interaction is an energy charging activity for them, not an energy draining activity. So I'm very much an introvert. I've been an introvert my whole life. And my heart goes out to a lot of introverts out there. And speaking is not my core competency. That's something that I do because I have to. It's a necessary evil. And if you go the route that I went, which was, sort of the management route, you manage things by communicating. That you just have to. There's no getting around it. And if you want to lead a business, you do that by communicating, by getting information and by disseminating information. And you cannot shy away from social interaction. That's just the reality of it. So it's something that anybody can learn, whether you are an introvert or an extrovert. It's something that you can do. So we're going to get into that today. I think I've done all my introductory type stuff. Hello to everyone who's here. There are 21 people here. Thank you for joining me. It was a late start today. Okay, before we cover 5 career lessons for introverts, we're going to answer the job interview question. Tell me something about yourself that's not on your resume. Okay? We're going to talk about how you answer that question. By the way, if you are looking for a job right now and you're wondering how to go about that in an efficient way that yields great results, check out that course. There's a link in the description. It's all my advice, all in one place for how to get a job. And it's also how to advance your career. There's a big emphasis on what I call networking on demand, because that's where all the really great jobs are. It's part of what's known as the hidden job market, okay, which is a real thing. If you ask most people today how they got their current job, they're not going to say, I applied cold answering an internet job ad. That's not what they're going to say. They're going to say, I got it through some form of networking. Either they knew someone there, or they asked for the job, or they contacted the company, or they applied in person and made a good impression. Some version of that. That's how most people get jobs. So you can take advantage of this, and especially if you're an introvert, you may either be averse to doing this, or you might be really confused as to how to do it. This will help you specifically with that. That's a huge component of it. Okay, let's get into this. So you go to a job interview, and everybody knows that the first question they ask, the icebreaker, if you will, is usually some form of the question, tell me about yourself. They could say, please introduce yourself, or they could apply any other permutation or variation of that question. This is one of them where they say, tell me something about yourself that's not on your resume. Okay? Now, I got to get the obvious stuff out of the way first. Do these people have your resume memorized? In 99% of cases, I would say absolutely not. You're sometimes lucky if these people even know one thing that's on your resume when you get to the job interview. The reason for that usually is, if we're talking about recruiters here, it's usually because when they do job interviews, like a lot of things, you would schedule them back to back. So you're talking to several candidates in a row. And there's usually not a lot of time between the interviews. So if you do an interview, maybe there's a recruiter at the interview, maybe 1 or 2 other people, like, a hiring manager or something like that. And in a perfect world, they would interview a candidate, and then, the interview goes for, 45 minutes or something. And then the candidate leaves, you say your farewells, they leave, and then the recruiter and hiring manager might have a few minutes to discuss how it went, and then maybe do some preparation for the next interview they have that starts in a few minutes. Right? That's how it would go in a perfect world. But usually people are rushed. Interviews go longer than you think. And so there's not a lot of preparation done. So by the time the one interview ends and people get up and, go to the washroom, come back, it's time for the next interview. The next candidate is here, and you haven't had any time to really look down at, the person's application or their resume and refresh yourself as to who is this person. Now, the great thing about job interviews from the perspective of the interviewer is that if you ask an icebreaker question like, tell me about yourself, you really don't have to know anything about the person you're talking to to start the conversation, right? Because whoever it is, you just say, tell me about yourself. And then they start explaining to you who they are and what they have and all this, right? And then you can just go from there. And the thing that you usually have in front of you as an interviewer is you have their resume, right? So my point is that a lot of times, the person who's at a job interview asking questions to you, the interviewer, they don't know what's on your resume. They may have read your resume at one point, but by the time of the interview, they've forgotten pretty much everything that's on there. So if you were to answer the question, tell me something about yourself that's not on your resume, if you were to answer that question with something that is on your resume, they probably wouldn't notice. That's the first thing I want to say. Now, you can choose to interpret this question as tell me something about yourself, and you're free to say anything you want, whether or not it's on your resume. Or you could answer this question specifically the way it was meant. Okay? That's what I want to get out of the way first. So if you just interpret this question as tell me about yourself, and the answer to tell me about yourself is you give a sort of 1 minute overview of your resume, your education and your basic work experience in 1 minute, just the very quick overview. You do not want to spend a ton of time on this question because you want to get to the point of the interview where you give them compelling reasons to hire you. You don't rehash things you've done from other people that, and other jobs that you've done in the past that might not be relevant to why you're the greatest person for this job. Okay, so that's the first disclaimer. There's another disclaimer I want to make that I've got to do, and that this is kind of a stupid question. Let's be honest. Everything relevant about you as a candidate will be on your resume. The only possible exceptions to that are your social skills and your motivations. Okay, your incentives. So like how good you are as a person, what you're like as a person to deal with, that's obviously not on your resume, but they're getting a sample of that by talking to you at the job interview. So it doesn't need to be on your resume. And even if it was, it wouldn't matter. That's the kind of thing that you verify through personal interaction. Your motivations, why you're here, and do you really want this job or are you just looking for anything? That's something that they're going to ask you questions about. Okay, so that's going to come out through other channels. So this is kind of a dumb question. If something is not on your resume, presumably it's not relevant, So that's another reason why this question throws candidates. Right? Because it's like, well, why do you want to know something that isn't on my resume? The only stuff I've left off my resume are trivial things that don't matter to this, right? Okay. The problem is that you get some recruiters these days with master's degrees in psychology that, they're just oblivious to the skills required to do a job. And instead it's all about psychology. It's all about, making judgments about you based on these silly little quick superficial things. Right? The first of which is not visibly being annoyed when they ask you a question this stupid. So don't have a negative reaction and control your body language. Okay? If they ask you a question that you think is just like, what? Don't show frustration or confusion or anything like that. Just take it in your stride. That's why it helps to do mock job interviews to practice this stuff. Okay, let's get to answering the actual question here. Okay. So here's a general rule about job interviews. Never guess what they're asking you. If you don't understand what they're asking, don't just ramble. Get clarification, okay? Now, I did a video a long time ago that tackles how to answer this question, and what I did there is kind of what I'm going to do here, where I'm going to give you 3 answers in the order of increasing sophistication, okay? So the most basic answer to this, that will be a pass, is to give them a personality trait of yours, an element of your personality, okay? and say something to the effect of like, well, I'm someone that really values having good work relationships or something like that. Tell me something about yourself that's not on your resume. Well, the answer is I'm a person that really values strong working relationships with my coworkers, something like that. I say this because when I interoperate with them, I found that the work is much more efficient and pleasant when you get along with people and you know a bit about them. And so I value that. And that's what I try and create in every work type situation that I find myself in. Something like that. That would be a basic answer to this question. That's not on your resume, but yet it's something that's relevant to this job that you're going for. And it's something that is probably a prerequisite to getting this job. Most jobs would require you to be somewhat social. So it's a pretty universal trait, and most interviewers are checking for stuff like that. So you could do a lot worse than say that. Okay, so answer number one would be to give a basic element of your personality. Okay, however, if you want to take this to the next level, like if you're no longer interviewing for an entry-level job and you want to, give a bit more sophisticated answer, it might make more sense to get some clarification as to what specifically they're looking for. So for that reason, the simple template answer to this question will be to simply say, certainly, what would you like to know? Right? And that puts the ball back in their court to clarify a little bit, kind of along the lines of what they're looking for. Because this question is so general. And that can be a big problem if you don't know what to say because it's so general. It's like saying, "Okay, welcome. Thank you for coming to this job interview. It's great to have you here. I'm looking forward to interacting with you. Okay, so start talking." It's like that's basically what they're doing here. They're saying, "Tell me something about yourself." Like you could talk about your childhood, you could talk about your food dislikes, you could talk about your philosophy for how to manage people, you could talk about your political opinions. You could talk about, your vital statistics, how much you weigh and your blood type and all. You know what I mean? Like technically those would all be answers to this question. None of that's on your resume and it is to do with you, but you know what I mean? Like they're probably not looking for that stuff. They're looking for something that's relevant to you being a candidate for this job. That's the context clue. But if you want to really be safe, you can throw the question back in a polite, pleasant way and say, certainly, what would you like to know? Right? You're not being troublesome. You're working with them and you're not making them feel awkward in any way. That's the second level answer. Okay. And then finally, as a third possibility, a way to answer this question is in a job interview, one of the standard things that most people, certainly all recruiters, look for. Most hiring managers look for this, but not necessarily. They're looking for passion. They're looking for a desire to do this job specifically. Okay, so they don't want to just hire anyone who's got skills. They want to hire someone who's got skills who they believe really wants to do this specific job. They're excited about working at this company. They're excited about doing this particular role specifically. That's the candidate that most recruiters and hiring managers are looking for. So a great thing in general that you can do when you're at a job interview is tell them that you want this job. You specifically state that. And you don't say it in a desperate way, like I need a job, I need money. You say it in an inspired way, in the sense that wow, this is like a perfect job opportunity for me. I really want this job. There's a lot of other jobs out there, but I want this one, right? That's what you want them to believe about you. Okay. So Why do I say that? I say that because this question can be a perfect opportunity for you to say that stuff. They're giving you the floor. They've asked you a very general question. Tell me something about yourself, right? That's not on your resume. Okay, if you want to be technical about it. This is a perfect opportunity for you to say the "I want this job" thing if you haven't yet said it in an interview. Now, if they ask you this question right at the very beginning, it may feel a bit weird jumping right into this, but it doesn't have to. Okay, so regardless of whether they ask this question at the beginning, at the middle, or at the end of your interview, I maintain that this is a great platform to use to answer the whole, to say the whole "I want this job" thing. So, they say, so tell me something about yourself, not on your resume. And you say, well, I think probably the most relevant thing you should know is that I want this job specifically. I think this is a tremendous opportunity for me. And then you go into reasons. It's because it seems from the job description that it combines skills in this area, which I have, with this or these personality traits, which I also have, with this other education or these other skills or traits over here, which I also have. And it's a great way for me to bring my skills in these three separate areas all to bear into one role, which is an amazing opportunity for me, because usually people are looking for one of these or one or two of them most, but this job is looking for all three, and I have all three. So I'm really excited about this, and I just want you to know that, right? So you could use this question as a platform to say that stuff. You would like to say that stuff at some point in the interview. They're giving you an open floor here, so it's a perfect opportunity. Okay, so that's what I would say. There's three answers in order of increasing sophistication of how to answer the question. Tell me something about yourself that's not on your resume. Number one is just give an element of your personality. Number two is you say, certainly, what would you like to know? Get some clarification. And then the third one is use it as a vehicle to basically say, I want this job. Hopefully that makes sense. And incidentally, I just want to remind everyone, if you are looking for a job right now and your job search campaign is not going anywhere fast and you're wondering about what to do, what's the right thing to do, what's the way I can do all this stuff, check out that course. That will help you tremendously. It's a very popular course. It's my most popular course. Hundreds of people have taken that course, and I've heard pretty much universally positive things all around. So I know it's helping people. Link in the description. Okay, let's move on to the main topic of this stream, which is 5 career lessons that make introverts more hireable. So if you are an introvert, hopefully this will help you. And these are simply a list of life lessons, as it were, of mine. Things that I've learned along the way, having a long career in different types of businesses and across 5 industries, going from essentially the worker level to mid-management to executive. This is what I've learned along the way. And there's 5 of them, so I'm going to divide them. Now, I just want to once again put a disclaimer on these. These are just from my experience. And I don't want people to just, I'm not telling you to simply accept these. If you hear these and you're ideologically opposed to them or something, all I'm asking is open your eyes and observe if they make sense in the real world, okay? Because for me, it's been a progression having a career that started in your late teens, early 20s, and then going all the way up to late middle age. My outlook has changed quite a bit. And I know, for example, they talk about the idealism of youth. When you're young, you're convinced that you know it all and you're damn certain about everything. And no one can dissuade you. No one can make you see reason or cause you to turn from your opinions because you're damn sure that they're true. I felt that big time. That was a real characteristic of my 20s. And so I understand people that are young that are like, really stuck in that. And I was almost universally wrong when I was in my 20s about pretty much everything. So it took many years, several decades of like seeing the error of your ways and seeing things work out for other people that cause you to rethink things, your worldview and how you should conduct yourself and what you should do. So if you don't immediately recognize the value of these, I completely understand. All I'm asking is open your eyes, be objective, and test some of these principles to see if they are in fact true for you, which I'm pretty sure they will be, but that's up to you to decide. Okay, without any further ado, let's get on with this. Okay, number one, if you're an introvert, you may pick up later than most on the value of charisma. Everybody knows what charisma is, right? It's being likable, the quality of being likable. When people meet you, do they like you immediately? Or are you kind of off-putting, a little more aloof, a little more held back, reserved, taciturn? You don't like to talk very much, so you're kind of a mystery to people, but they don't instantly warm to you. Charisma is a big deal. It's a very big deal. If you are a charismatic person, lots of opportunities open up before you in life, and things tend to go your way a lot more than if you're not a charismatic person. And I know from being an introvert myself, a technical introvert, that we can often have a blind spot for, when we're not being charismatic. We don't recognize it, but to others, it's immediately obvious. Now let's talk about charisma. What do I mean specifically? How do you become charismatic? Well, there's a couple of things. I mean, I obviously can't get into everything, but I'm going to try and give an overview of this. Very, very basic stuff. Like, for example, when you meet someone, look them in the eye, okay? Sometimes, for a variety of reasons, people don't do this. But you're more engaging to a person when you look them in the eyes. You don't have to have like a really intense kind of unbroken stare, but, just for the most part, make eye contact. You can look away occasionally, but you're basically looking at the person in the eye. That's number one. Number two is to smile. And I know this sounds absolutely basic and silly, but you'd be amazed at how much of a difference this actually makes to people. When you look at everyone like this, that's very unapproachable. And so if people don't know you, they probably won't want to come up and say hi to you, and they won't want to talk to you. Now think about it for a second. If people see you and immediately conclude they don't want to talk to you and they don't want to have anything to do with you, do you think that's a good sign? The answer is no, it's not. People will be less likely to hire you or to choose you or to want to work with you. Now, if we're just talking about a facial expression, why have everyone regard you that way just because of a facial expression? That's stupid. So what you want to try and do is come across as approachable. So I don't mean have like a big glittering smile where you show your teeth, like this kind of thing, but just look pleasant. Go out of your way to artificially make yourself look a lot less severe. Okay. That will, it's so silly that this is like something we're talking about, but you would not believe the effect this has. So if you're an introvert and you haven't really thought about that stuff very much, try it. Just like I'm trying to look pleasant right now, and hopefully that's coming across. You'd be a person that people want. They want you on their team. They want to have a conversation with you. They want to involve you. You're the person people want to work with. And that means that opportunities will come your way. All for something so stupid as this. It's a big deal, okay? Learn to talk to people. That's a huge part of charisma. Now, obviously, what you look like eye contact and looking approachable, that's part of it, but that's the very, very superficial stuff. Learn to have a conversation. In my dealings with introverts, and I've had a lot of dealings with introverts, I took engineering, so I'm in there with a lot of technical introverts taking engineering. I took electrical engineering, which was the nerdiest of all the engineering types. In mechanical engineering, civil engineering, you get people with leather jackets. They look almost like jocks, Electrical engineering, when I took it, that's where you get the people in sweatpants that haven't showered for a week, that have absolutely no social skills. That's where I was. Now, learn to have a conversation with somebody. And what do I mean specifically about that? I mean this. It's not about you. The conversation is about them. Get that into your head. Don't have a conversation with somebody where you just talk all about you in an unending sequence to somebody else. That is the most boring thing and off-putting thing ever. Do you like it when you go up to someone and all they want to talk about is themselves? What they think? What they've done? Do you care about that? Do you want to hear their opinion on everything and hear their life story? Probably not, right? So don't do that to other people. It is just as boring for them as it is for you when they do that to you, okay? So here's what you do, okay? If you want to have a conversation with someone that you haven't talked to before and you want them to instantly love you, here's what you do. Ask them questions about something that they're likely to care about, something that they have an opinion on, maybe even a strong opinion, and they know something about. They'll probably want to talk about that thing, right? So for example, let's say you're meeting a dentist for the first time. There's you're thrown into a room with another person and they're a dentist. That's all you know. Well, go up and ask them about what they do as a dentist, and how it works and what they think, And chances are they will know a lot about that and B, have strong opinions about that, and they'll enjoy talking about it. And you know what's flattering? Is when someone asks you, what do you think about this? And they listen to what you think about something. That's very flattering. You feel wonderful when someone does that to you. It's like, oh, you care. You actually want to know what I think. That makes me feel very flattered, right? So you instantly like the other person and you enjoy the conversation. And then as they say stuff, you ask follow-up questions. You ask them about dentistry. How long have you been a dentist? 5 years. Has it been kind of the way you envisioned it before you became a dentist? Or does it turn out to be completely different? And then they'll talk about that. And then they'll go a little bit more in detail. And then you ask a follow-up question. Oh, how so? Right? And then they go more into that. And they're getting more engaged and they love talking to you at this point. Right? So that's personal charisma. When people meet you, they like talking to you. I mean, this is really not hard. This is extremely simple to do. And it makes all the difference. So, engaging with people and doing this kind of stuff is a big deal. This is what I learned sort of relatively early on in my career, maybe my late 20s, early 30s. I kind of learned this and I applied it. And it's amazing, stuff opens up for you. People want to work with you. People remember you. They care about you. They want to involve you. This is good stuff. Okay? So if this is something that you haven't really been tuned into, think about it and try it. Okay? Practice makes perfect. The more you try this, the better you get, the better results you get, and the more things will come your way. Good things will come your way. That's career lesson number 1. This will help you in your career. I mean, it'll help you in your life, but we're confining it, I guess, the discussion here to your career. Number 2, don't rock the boat. Now, that sounds bad, but let me explain. Obviously, people will interoperate with each other, and it's just a fact of life. People disagree. They disagree on little things, and they disagree on big things. And everyone that you work with or that you interact with, you're going to disagree with them on something. Probably very soon, right? It happens often, and you can get pretty big differences of opinion, right? This is self-evident. We know this. Okay? But there's a difference between disagreeing with somebody and arguing with them. One, you keep to yourself. The other one, you let them have it, right? So listen, a lot of things aren't worth arguing over because it's not relevant. For example, I could work with somebody, maybe I have different political opinions than them. Maybe I have different taste in music, right? Now, I could argue with them and say, like, damn it, this band is the best band in the world, or, whatever, or this song or this style of music is way better than that. And I could really get into it with them, and we could really ruin our personal relationship over arguing about this stuff, depending on how you do it, right? But do you need to do that with a coworker? Does music enter into the work you have to do together? No. So why do it, right? And that's what I'm talking about. If it's not directly relevant, don't go out of your way to like let's get into it, and just argue with people, right? And make your difference of opinion known. If it's not relevant, don't rock the boat. It's just that simple. Now, what this does is it preserves what we were talking about a moment ago with charisma. Okay? People will like you. The more you disagree with them, the less they like you. That's just human nature. It's stupid and it's petty, but it's true. This is how humans behave, right? Some people do this more than others, right? So that's why I'm saying don't rock the boat. Not everything is worth arguing over or really pushing back over. Some things are. Like if they're asking you to compromise your moral values or ethics or something that's a real core belief or something in a big way, then obviously, yes, it's something that you want to address. But all I'm saying is that unless you're going there, 95% of the time you aren't, then don't worry about it. It's not worth getting into, The other thing is that, in a lot of work relationships, you have like a manager, you have a superior, and then you have the subordinates, right? And if you're a subordinate, it's really a bad idea to argue with your boss unless it's absolutely essential. It's like it causes a complete impasse if you don't. And if you do want to bring it up, there are professional ways to bring it up that make it a lot easier to handle rather than just blurting it out. Okay, so there's professional ways. This is the kind of thing that prevents people from getting promoted, is they don't understand these things. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how brilliant you are if you don't understand these basic rules of interaction, people are not going to want to work with you. They're not going to want to deal with you every day if you don't know stuff like this. That's a lot of the hidden reasons why certain people don't get promoted or get hired even in certain roles. Okay? People want an ally, and they'll support an ally. They don't want someone who's going to argue with them about stuff that isn't absolutely essential. Often, they don't want that. It just creates divisions between people. It creates distance between people. They want people that they feel are on their side. They want to surround themselves with people they feel are on their side. And so that's why this principle works. So if this is something that you've never thought about before, tune into this. In my experience, a lot of introverts also have a blind spot for this, and I'm including myself on that. Certainly earlier on when I was younger, I definitely had a blind spot with this. I had very strong opinions about a lot of things, and I really made them known. And that burnt a lot of bridges for me in the beginning. And I see a lot of people doing that today, especially a lot of young people, which it's fine. life's a journey. We all go on, you learn, right? But at a certain point, it's time to sort of, learn some of these lessons and incorporate them and then have things really take off for you. I'm going to finish the 5 of these and I'm going to take questions. So the third one is about your network. Okay. Now, let's say you work in a job. Okay. Like, let's say you're you're in a job where you've got to deal with different people, right? You'll have almost like, you guys know what a Rolodex is? People don't use Rolodexes anymore, but it was like when people had business cards, you'd put them in this thing and you turn it around and, all the cards would rotate through like a cylinder and you could like scroll to like the card you wanted. They're all alphabetical. And then you pull out this person and then you can call them or, email them, whatever. So that's a Rolodex. So you have this like Rolodex in your head. And the idea is that like, when I have a question about this, I call that person. And then when I have a question about this other thing, I call that person, right? So you have like everybody's got this to a degree. You have like a network or a sort of community of people that you can call upon to answer questions or to assist with different things, right? Now, depending on what your job is, you might have a very big Rolodex. You could like have an actual real version of this that you use for your job where you have a sort of a directory of contacts and like, okay, like for example, I worked as a project leader for several years and that anything to do with insurance, you'd call this person. Anything to do with, building code questions, you'd call that person. Anything to do with, pre-qualification or safety program, safety related questions, you call these people. Anything to do with environmental, you call that other person, and so on. Anything to do with shipping or packaging, you call the head of the warehouse, et cetera, et cetera. So you have a list of contacts, right? As an introvert, have you ever been annoyed with extroverted type people that don't seem to put the work in, the technical work in to do things and to learn things, but yet they can get things done by simply picking up the phone and calling their buddy who deals with that, and then their buddy just either tells them exactly what to do or just takes care of the whole thing for them? You ever been in that situation? Ever been jealous of that? Well, it is aggravating, especially if you're the type of person that takes the trouble to learn how to do everything themselves. It's very empowering, but then you see people that don't put the work in that get the same result because they rely on their network, right? Well, what I'm here to tell you is that as aggravating as that is, it's a fact of life, it's human nature, and you can take advantage of that same principle, okay? It can make you even more powerful, even more empowered. The bigger your network is, the more you can pick up the phone or have a conversation with somebody where, you can get an instant answer from an expert, or you get someone to help you out with something. That's very empowering. Don't shy away from that. Use it to your advantage. Build up a big network of people that, know you and that you can work with. And whenever you have a question about something or that thing comes up that they're an expert on, use them as a resource. That'll make you so much more capable, so much more potent. Okay, don't do everything the hard way. Basically, mine your network to use people's abilities to help you. Okay, that's the third lesson. That's something I learned mainly in a project management role, because you just can't learn everything yourself. That's what I learned. Like, you can learn a hell of a lot yourself. You can be the authority on many different areas by putting the time in and really immersing yourself in it, but you'll never be able to learn everything. You can't be an expert on everything. And so in my case, it really forced me to depend on my contacts. And it got to the point where I had several people that I absolutely relied upon. I just thought, like, anything to do with insurance, I'm no longer going to try and wrap my head around it. I'm just going to give this person a call. I'm going to have them do it for me, or at least show me what to do exactly. They're really, really good, and I'm just going to lean on them for that. And that gives me the capability that they have, in a sense, I can get that stuff done simply by using them as a resource. Okay, so that's number 3. Your network connects you to solutions. Number 4, if you're still with me, there's 37 people with me. You guys are awesome. Thank you for joining me today. Okay, we're in the middle of talking about 5 career lessons that make introverts more hireable. This is number 4, okay? And that is that visibility matters. Another thing that's annoying as hell, but at the same time is true, okay? It's a little off-putting. It certainly was to me in the beginning, but observing how this has benefited others, I kind of got tuned into this, okay? Visibility matters. Now, for those of you that know a little bit of marketing, I don't know if there's any introverts that know marketing. Maybe there are, I'm not sure. But one of the principles of marketing is, how do you get an awareness of something? And awareness, it's like a mathematical formula. It's like, number of exposures multiplied by the impact that those exposures have give you awareness or something like that. So there's some formula that these marketers use. But the point is, number of exposures matters. It really does. Do people forget about you? Do people not think of you? Is that a good sign? No, it isn't. If you want opportunities to come your way, people have to think of you. People have to be aware of you. So visibility matters, right? It's sometimes annoying to see some slimier people, usually extroverted people, play this game where it can turn into visibility matters even if there's no substance, but visibility matters, and if you have substance behind it, it's a win-win. So don't stay in the shadows. Don't be afraid to be seen. Like, for example, if you work at a job and you can solve certain problems, you take care of certain things in your job, in your role, that's your role. Wouldn't it be great if everyone just knew that if ever I got to deal with this, I call Bill, or I call whatever your name is, I call you, right? Maybe most people aren't aware of that, right? Sometimes people will shy away from that because they'll say, well, if everybody knows that I deal with this, I'm going to be inundated with questions and requests for help, right? Yes, I understand exactly what you're talking about. However, in the long run, staying in the shadows ultimately hurts you. That's what I've learned. You get much more opportunities, you get much more inclusion of being included in, things that can help you, that are valuable, if you're at least somewhat visible. So don't shy away from visibility. Okay? If they forget about you, that's not a good sign. So don't be afraid to make yourself known. Okay? If you're doing a thing, don't be afraid to tell everyone that, I do this. If anyone has a question, anyone needs that done, I'm the one that deals with that. Right? Okay? So hopefully that makes sense. Especially to people that are above you. Don't make yourself a nuisance, but it's okay. It's okay to sort of volunteer for things. It's okay to ask to be included in things. And then when you're there, don't just sit silently by yourself, talk to people, right? And then they'll know who you are. And that's when things start to come your way. Okay, and finally, number 5 of 5 is, I don't know what to call this, but it's the realization that you don't know it all. Now, when I was in my 20s, I didn't have this at all. I was damn sure of what I knew, even though I'd never done anything and I'd never seen it, but I was damn sure I knew how it all worked. And I was damn sure I knew the solutions to the problems that everybody else was struggling with, right? That's just how people feel when they're younger. You haven't seen a lot, you haven't done a lot, but you know it all. And then for most people, what usually happens is, as you get a little older, it becomes clear to you. It's revealed to you that you're wrong. You don't know it all. And you failed because of it. And then, depending on the type of person, some people realize this sooner than others, but then they start to actually open their eyes and actually listen to people and are open to other ways of doing things. And then they gradually stitch together sort of something that does work. It's a little bit of what you thought and a little bit of what you've learned by looking at others and looking at how things really work. Okay? So all I'm saying is that if you have the maturity to realize that you don't know it all and that you can actually be open to other approaches, this will help you. Okay? Now, the problem is that this kind of contradicts being passionate and having a conviction. And it's good to go your own path, even though you don't have a lot of people behind you that agree with you. You know, you're not a sheep, you're not a follower. You can actually trailblaze and you have confidence in yourself, right? You know, that's a little at odds with this maturity of like, you know, thinking like, well, I don't know it all, right? Now, to be honest with you, I haven't been able to really find a great way to reconcile those two. When I was younger, I felt I was definitely a trailblazer. I didn't care what anybody thought. I went against the grain for a lot of different things, some of which paid off, some of them didn't. And I'm glad that I thought like that, and I still have a bit of that. However, I've matured quite a bit in that I realize I've seen the value in a lot of things that I dismissed earlier. And so I think that's part of the maturing process where you're not quite so pig-headed about what you know, and instead you're a little more open-minded to seeing it different ways. As people mature, they tend to go in that direction. So if you are dealing with a boss or something that's older than you, chances are they're ahead of you in that journey. So you can maybe relate to them more and be regarded more favorably by them by thinking more like that. Okay, not being quite so stubborn, not being quite so adamant about something that you haven't really done yourself yet. And then good things will happen. Okay, so those are my 5 things in a nutshell. Number 1, charisma. Realize the importance of it. Try and work on your personal charisma. Number 2, don't rock the boat. And I mean that in the sense of like, if it's not a critical point, don't create conflicts between people, between yourself and others, unless it's like a major issue. Okay, don't bicker about little things. That never does any good. Don't be an argumentative type of person. Be an agreeable type person. Things will go better for you. But obviously, if it crosses that line, then this no longer applies. Don't let anyone force you to compromise your ethics or morals or any very important personal value. Number 3, utilize a network. A network is your friend. It's your asset. It's a huge part of your value because it means that either you can do something yourself or you can get it done by tapping your network. Number 4, visibility matters. Okay, don't be afraid to make yourself a little more visible. Don't stay in the background. It's great that you're talented, but if you're talented and no one knows it, that doesn't really serve you. You have to have a combination of being really talented, having a lot of skills, but people know that you're talented and people know that you're there, okay, for great things to happen. And then finally, be a little open-minded, a little mature. You don't know everything. You haven't seen it all and you haven't done it all. So just be open to seeing the value in things that maybe you dismissed out of hand, right? Don't do that quite so much. Spot that as a flaw in your thinking for what it is. And those are my 5 career lessons that will specifically work for introverts. I think that a lot of introverts have had a blind spot for these. I certainly had, and I've noticed it in other people too, a lot of other people. Okay, thank you very much. Now let's go over to questions. I see there's 32 people here. NC Worker is here. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, NC Worker. And hi to Dafa, who is joining us. Sandra says, I'm an introvert and got recently laid off in a mass layoff. I had a very good interview, but never heard back from the recruiters. What do you suggest to do? Well, it's quite simple, Sandra. What you do is you keep moving forward. Okay. So what that means is, assuming that you've done everything that's reasonable for this particular opportunity, which means you've sent a thank you note and all that, then you move on. Okay. Now, getting a job is more than 50% based on random chance. It's just statistical probability. It's not based on anything really that you do. Obviously you want to do the right things, but beyond that, it's really up to what these people are looking for and how they assessed you. You have no control over either of those. You meet some people, they instantly are turned off by you. They underestimate all your value. But you meet some other people and they think you're wonderful. And it's not really based on anything that you've done that's different. It's just how they see things. Okay. So what you want to do is you want to maximize the number of people you get in front of, right? Because sooner or later, someone will pick you. They'll say, Sandra, I think you're fantastic and we pick you. Okay. That will happen. And it'll happen a lot sooner if you're getting in front of people often. If you're getting in front of people very scarcely, you might have to wait a much longer time for that to occur, but it will happen. Okay. So what you want to do is you want to do the best you can, which it looks like you've done. Then move forward, focus on creating more opportunities. So get more interviews. If you're doing a job search campaign, make sure that you're not neglecting the single biggest way people get hired, which is networking. Now, if you don't believe me when I say this stuff, because I know a lot of introverts, they have a real blind spot for this and they have an aversion to it. If you don't believe me, don't take my word for it. Go and do some independent research on your own and find what's the way that most people get hired. It's through networking. Okay. I'm not here to try and force you to accept my word, but that's the reality and you will see it. The reason why you don't hear about it more is because who are the people that usually talk about hiring? Recruiters, right? And it's a little bit of a conflict of interest for a recruiter to say, you don't need to go through a recruiter to get a job, right? So that's the reason I think that we don't hear more about it. But I'm not a recruiter and I'm giving it to you straight. In fact, in the world of like executive management, that's almost universally how it's done. Nobody goes through a recruiter. You talk to other people and you go direct to the hiring managers and say, basically, I'm here, I can do this if you're looking for that. Or they realize they need someone in there who can do this. And so you just put out feelers and you get it. The recruiter doesn't play into that process. They come in, if they do come in, they come in a bit later and they act like a clerk, basically, doing paperwork and things like that more than anything else. Okay, Sandra, so take advantage of networking. If you have no clue how to do that, I have some free channels on my free videos on my YouTube channel, but this is the place where all that stuff is. Okay, so check out that course. Other than that, just keep on keeping on. Okay, try to get as many interviews as you possibly can, either by the standard method, which is responding to job ads, or the better method, which is using networking to get informational interviews or getting job interviews through reaching out to employers directly and talking to either executives or a known hiring manager. Okay, Dafa says, I'm an introvert and I am the only kind in my office. So the only introvert? People treated me as if I am a psychopath. Yeah, that's I feel for you. Everyone but me got promoted and recently got laid off. It makes me depressed. Yes, that's I can definitely believe you, and I can see that happening, Dafa. It's stupid. You see, people tend to place value on things that they themselves have. So extroverts will see an extrovert as more value than an introvert. Introverts tend to see introverts as having more value than an extrovert, and so on. Accountants tend to view someone with a degree in accountancy or accounting as more valuable than someone with a degree in sales, and so on and so forth, right? So if you're the only introvert in your office, it's not unexpected that they will all warm to each other and they'll kind of cool to you. If you were working in a department with all introverts except for one guy who was an extrovert, he would feel ostracized and he would feel undervalued. I guarantee it. He would be regarded not as a psychopath, but as like, a slacker or a skiver, someone who doesn't want to get down to work, but just wants to, sort of do chit chat and, small talk with everybody all the time when he should be working. Right. So that's how this stuff is working. So if you're in that situation, that makes the stuff I was talking about today even more relevant, because what I was talking about today are simple principles that introverts can embrace that help you almost operate in the world of extroverts, successfully. There wasn't really a question at the end of that DAFA, but if you had a question beyond your story, feel free to ask. Okay, unconventional advice that works says, for introverts, 1, develop charisma. 2, don't be disagreeable over irrelevant issues. 3, use your network connects to solutions. 4, visibility increases awareness. 5, keep learning you don't know at all. Yeah, you basically summarized that really well. Those are my 5 lessons there. Unconventional advice that works. Thanks for this concise list. You're absolutely welcome. Dafa says, so far this is the best live stream. Oh, well, thank you. I guess I'm picking a topic that certain people it strikes a chord with them, so that's great. Yeah, it's always a challenge to be an introvert, because introverts and extroverts are both very capable people. But extroverts, it's much more obvious. It's more immediate what their value is. You see, when you're silent and when you don't enjoy talking to people or going out of your way to socialize, your value is harder to detect. It's there, but it's not right in your face the way it would be with a lot of extroverts. That's the issue. You see, the reality of the world is that the world is connected, right? Now, here we're talking about business. We're talking about how to get a job and things like this. Well, surprise, surprise. In order to get a job, you've got to interact with people, right? And the world of business, if you want to be in business, the other thing that I talk about, business, you can't do it in a vacuum. You have to connect to other people to make that happen. At the most fundamental level, you have to connect to customers. You have to reach out to customers and have them like you. If you can't do that, then you can't really make any money by selling things. So it's a connected world. And introverts have a bit of a harder time with this because of their nature. And I understand this. I mean, I am an introvert. I've been an introvert my entire life. So I feel like I can speak to it. I mean, the thing is, introverts are the people that, generally speaking, they can just get down to work. They can solve technical problems. And contrary to what the impression is, they're actually the visionaries. Because if you look at, for example, the history of inventions and technology, you look at how technology has evolved, all the little discoveries and the little, things where they made innovations and the innovations had an impact. Who was at the helm of all that? Almost to a person, it was introverts. Like it was like over 90% of the people that have invented really key things have been introverts. And that's not a surprise, because introverts, they're the ones with the focus and the, obsessive ability to care about that thing so much. They're the ones that are going to have almost an unhealthy obsession with it, that are going to work on this problem and come up with a crazy solution. It's very rarely extroverts to do this. It's always introverts. They're the ones that drive innovation. They move the world forward. So there's a ton of value there. These are people that solve some of the biggest problems and the biggest challenges that are facing humanity. It's the introverts that directly tackle those and are directly the ones that lead to pushing forward the boundaries of human knowledge and solving problems. Extroverts definitely have their purpose too. They're the connectors. They connect everyone together, right? So you need both. But when you're surrounded by people of the opposite type, it really makes you feel undervalued because one side does not recognize the value of the other. And it works both ways. I've seen it work both ways. A lot of extroverts, like we heard from Dafa earlier, extroverts will undervalue an introvert a lot of times. But let's be honest, introverts really, really look down on extroverts. They think extroverts are all talk, no substance, no abilities, no ability to focus, no ability to have a good work ethic, flighty, flaky, this kind of thing, right? Tell me if you've ever thought that about extroverts. But the annoying thing, like I touched on earlier when I was talking about my 5 principles there, is that annoyingly a lot of extroverts will solve problems and things by relying on a network or relying on other things that they have, right? That being able to connect themselves to a solution rather than using brute force to just, fix it. And that frustrates introverts to no end, right? This is the difference between us. What I've learned is that you need both. You just cannot escape the fact that you need both. And if you're an introvert that has the technical skills, the focus, and the obsession to solve problems, but yet you have some of the traits of an extrovert, you can tack those on. You can achieve incredible things. I used to think that, my natural tendency, like a lot of introverts, is to just almost wall yourself off from the world in a sense. You just want to go be by yourself to recharge. And you realize that in the world of business, which is what I was doing, you couldn't really do that. You have to get out. You have to interact with people. Now, I try to make it as pleasant and palatable as possible, do it on my own terms, which you can do, and I'd encourage you to do that. But you can't get away from doing it if you want to be successful in your career and stuff like that. You have to do it to a certain degree. Dafa says, I feel alienated. What do you think I should do? I feel like everything I do doesn't mean anything, but the extrovert, even the slightest thing they do got recognized. Okay, listen, Dafa, here's what I'd say. I'd say this, okay, you are going down what I think is the same path that I went down. And when I was talking earlier about how, visibility matters, that was my principle number 4. That's kind of where this comes from. What you're describing is kind of where that principle comes from. You see, what is the extrovert doing that is getting them that praise? Well, I can pretty much guarantee you that they're not doing something and then keeping it to themselves. They're probably doing it and then broadcasting it to everyone. Hey, look what I did. And then one way or another, making sure that everybody knows that it's me that did this, right? And they're doing it in such a way that isn't off-putting to the people receiving that message. And that's what's getting them recognized, right? Now, listen, I don't know the details of the situation you're in, but if I had to make an educated guess, all things being equal, what I'd imagine is that when you do something, you don't shout it from the rooftops because you don't consider it that big of an achievement. It's like, hey, I'm just doing my job. Yeah, I had a win, but everyone gets a win multiple times a day. I call it checking off a task. I completed that task. If I were to broadcast that, this is some amazing thing, I would regard that as arrogant and, off-putting. So you don't do that. And consequently, people never hear about your achievements. They just never hear anything from you. So that's one reason, possibly, likely, why you're not getting a lot of recognition the same way that an extrovert might get recognition. There might be other things there too. There might be okay, communication skills are important. If you do it in hey guys, I did this thing. Now, obviously, you can communicate that one way and have everyone think it's a great win and be happy for you. You could communicate the same message another way and have it be off-putting and awkward and like, wow, that was arrogant, right? Depending on how you do it. So it could be down to communication skills. It also could be down to past history. Maybe they already have formed an opinion about you based on past history that's hard to overcome. You'd be working against that. So there might be a lot of those types of factors in the way. Okay? But listen, this is coming from someone who's quit several jobs before, but, not all situations are worth salvaging. But a lot of times they are. And the way you would salvage it, if you feel it's worth doing, is you chip away at the stone. You just warm to people. You try and make them feel good about themselves. You talk to them more. You initiate interaction more. When they initiate interaction with you, you're a lot more receptive to it. You don't try and shut it down as soon as possible. You kind of get into it with them, and you focus on giving them a good experience talking to you. So you don't talk at them. You give them a platform to say what they enjoy saying, and you give them some positive reinforcement and all this kind of stuff, and then they'll warm to you, right? You come in to work in the morning, and someone's sitting at the next desk, and you say, "Hey, John, how are you today?" And then they say, "Oh, I'm doing okay," and you say, "Oh, okay, that's great. I hope you have a good day. See you later." Something like just little things like that make people warm to you, right? Or if they say, "Oh, I'm not doing too well," you say, "Oh, what's the matter?" And then you genuinely want to listen to them. Okay, little things like that. These are so trivial. That's why introverts overlook them. They think, it's stupid. But it's little things like this that make a huge difference, annoyingly, right? So start down this journey where you pay attention to that stuff. And I mean, listen, I'm not asking you to take anything on faith. Just try a little bit of it and see where it gets you. And if it gets you somewhere a little bit more favorable, keep doing it. Do it with everybody. Do it with the people in the beginning that are really easy to talk to. And then, kind of master that, and then try and generalize it to then dealing with everyone like that, even the people that are a bit more gruff. Little Kaiju says Nikola Tesla was an introvert. Yeah, he was a big introvert. Absolute genius. But you want to talk about someone that really lost out in the career department. I mean, it's weird. Like Nikola Tesla succeeded and is famous despite how much of an introvert he was. Certainly not because of it. I mean, he was a genius, but he mismanaged his life so much, and in his dealings with Edison and with a lot of other people, simply because of his personality, it really held him back. And he's kind of more of an extreme case, kind of an exception, an extreme exception. But if you try to imagine Nikola Tesla with the personal charisma and skills of someone like Thomas Edison, it would be no contest. He'd be ruling the world today. He would be our greatest scientific hero. Instead of being the moderately famous person for technical things that he is today. You're welcome, Jessica. That's very nice of you. Daffa says, "Wow, your guess is right, as if you read my mind with precisely." Thank you, Bill. I really appreciate it. You're absolutely welcome, Daffa. You are not alone. You are what you've described. That's the typical introvert experience. You are not alone. 50% of the world, roughly, I'm told, are introverts. It's roughly split, 50-50. Introverts, extroverts. Now, it's not like a black and white thing. It's a continuum, right? Some people can be somewhere around the middle. Other people can be right at the extremes, right? So it is a bit of a continuum, but roughly, I'm led to believe that 50% are introverts, 50% are extroverts. So you are certainly not alone. A lot of people have very similar experiences. And the sooner they pick up on stuff like this, I think, the further they'll go, and the more things will happen for them. So the secret is to sort of do it in a way that's palatable for you. Start off with the easy wins, and then when you feel a bit more confident in your ability to do this stuff, then, just generalize it to everyone and things will take off for you. Okay, any last questions? Ask them now. If I don't get any more questions, I will end this in a couple of minutes. We had a late start today, and I've got to get rolling soon. But hopefully you found what I said earlier useful on 5 career lessons to make introverts more hireable, because there's a lot of introverts out there. They're generally speaking, they're pretty highly talented, highly capable people, but their weakness, their Achilles heel, is their social skills. And what I've learned is that it's not that the social skills are too hard for them to do. The real weakness is that they undervalue the social skills. They think it's not worth working on. It's not something that's worth my time to try and think about or to do. And then they have a blind spot about their flaws in this area. And all you have to do is just wise up to how you're hurting yourself or how things are not as good as they could be, just by tacking on a few extremely simple principles and a little things you can do that really aren't hard at all. I've met a lot of engineers that are like incredibly smart people, way smarter than I am, but they have real weaknesses in these areas. And it's not because it's too hard for them. It's because they just never thought of it. They don't recognize it as being any kind of thing that's holding them back. Unconventional advice says, yes, the sooner the better. Start with the easy wins and keep going. Yes, I agree. You're welcome, unconventional advice. And Dafa says, well, at least I win the interview before you end the live stream. Thank you, Bill. Good night from Indonesia. Right on. Is it Jakarta? Are you in Jakarta? That's the big city there, capital, I believe. Anyway, yes, it looks like we've reached the end of this. Thank you to the 27 people that are here. If you want to improve how your job search is going, I highly recommend to get that course. That's where all my advice is, all in one package, principle by principle, template after template. It really goes into how to interview and how to do a resume and a LinkedIn profile. But the main value that I think I offer, that not a lot of people offer, is how to do the networking on demand, where you reach out to employers, who to talk to, what to say, how to do it. And it's tailored also for introverts. So you can do this, like a lot of it is on social networking. You can do it that way. And then when you do get an interview, it's an interview where they invite you in. So it's not like you're shoehorning your way into a company. It's where they've invited you in and they want to talk to you. So it feels a lot more like a referral than it does a job interview, where you're there because they asked you to come in, right? So it's a completely different dynamic than a lot of job interviews feel like. And usually that's where the good jobs are, and that's where you get the job where the person hiring you believes in you, and it makes for a great working relationship. So check that out. This is a weekly live stream. I will be back next Monday, same time, except I will start on time, hopefully. And if you have any questions, that's the best way to get some answers. Mr. Sleep says, your videos helped me get a job and at a great pay range. Just wanted to start out with a thanks. I'm an introvert for sure, but in the role that requires me to be an extrovert, tough, but I've adapted. Well, excellent. That's great to hear, Mr. Sleep. That's awesome. Okay. Thanks, everybody. You guys are awesome. Check out my other channels, The Company's Expert 2. And if you're into the business stuff, The Company's Expert 3, subscribe to those if you're into those. Get my Get Hired course. And I didn't even mention it this live stream, but we're talking about communication. This will really help you with communication. It's called Write Like a Professional. It's probably the shortest course I have, so it's more manageable and easy to do. But It's mainly about what to say rather than like how to write. So this is skills for executives. That's what I was trying to teach in that course. And I did teach. It's about how to do executive communication. Now, I think everybody can learn from that, whether or not you're going for an executive job or not. It's how to communicate with people in ways to get a positive outcome. So if you have to deliver bad news or, all these kind of slightly more awkward type situations, you don't know how to phrase it, you don't know what to do. I talk about stuff like that, as well as how to write properly, where people make favorable judgments about you based on your first impressions. So if that's something you're looking to do, check out that course also. Link in the description. I will be back next week. Thank you for being here. You guys are awesome. I wish you nothing but the best. Take care.